There is a strange moment many people reach without expecting it. You have read enough, you have reflected enough, you have questioned life, society, success, identity, purpose. And suddenly, the old illusions stop working. Achievement feels hollow. Motivation doesn't land the same way. Goals that once drove you feel distant or artificial, and you are left with a quiet but unsettling feeling, a kind of emptiness that doesn't feel sad, but doesn't feel alive either. This is not depression, it is not failure, and it is not that you are lost. It is something else. It is what happens when old meanings fall apart, but deeper clarity has not yet stabilized. You are between stories. In 2026, more people are here than ever before. Hyper-connected, informed, reflective, and inwardly disoriented. Not because life has less to offer, but because the way we were taught to relate to life no longer works. Albert Camus saw this fracture clearly, not as a philosopher trying to fix it, but as a human being refusing to lie about it. He did not rush to replace meaning, he stayed with the truth of how life actually feels when illusions dissolve. And that is where these 5 truths come from, not as beliefs to adopt, but as realities to recognize. They are not comforting at first, but they are stabilizing. And once seen clearly, something inside you stops grasping, and starts breathing again. Truth 1. Life does not exist to fulfill you. One of the most disorienting realizations is this: life is not a system designed to satisfy you, complete you, or reward you. This realization often arrives painfully. You do what you were told to do. You grow, you improve, you become more conscious. And yet, fulfillment does not arrive. The mistake is subtle, but massive. We assume life owes us a feeling. Camus saw that much of human suffering begins here. Not because life is cruel, but because we project expectations onto something that was never built to meet them. Life does not promise meaning. It does not guarantee happiness. It does not organize itself around your narrative. And paradoxically, this is not nihilism. This is realism. When you stop demanding that life complete you, something loosens. The pressure dissolves, the constant inner negotiation stops. You are no longer waiting for life to feel right before living it. This is where emptiness often first appears, because when the demand collapses, there is a gap. And that gap feels like nothingness. But what you are actually experiencing is space. Space without projection, space without expectation. Life is not withholding meaning from you. It simply never operated on that contract. And once you see that, you stop chasing fulfillment, and start encountering reality. Think about how this usually shows up in real life. Someone spends years doing what they were told would make them fulfilled. They study, they build a career, work on themselves, read books, go to therapy. They try to become more aware, more evolved, more put together. And then one day, often quietly, they realize something feels off. Not dramatic, just a dull sense that after all this effort, life still feels oddly unfinished. That moment can feel confusing, even disappointing, because it clashes with the story they were promised. In today's society, especially in the last few years, this gap has become more common. People are more informed than ever, more self-aware, more intentional, yet many feel less satisfied. Not because they failed, but because they were unconsciously waiting for life to reward them with a feeling. A sense of arrival. A moment where everything finally clicks and stays that way. When that moment doesn't come, the mind assumes something is wrong, with life, or with them. But what's actually happening is simpler, and more unsettling at first. Life was never designed to deliver a permanent state of fulfillment. It moves, shifts, changes, and asks to be lived, not completed. When you stop expecting life to fill you, the sense of emptiness that appears isn't a punishment. It's the absence of a false expectation. And in that space, something more honest becomes possible. You stop negotiating with reality. You stop asking life to justify itself. You meet it as it is. Unfinished. Uncertain. Alive. And strangely, that's often when things begin to feel lighter. Not because life finally gave you meaning, but because you stopped asking it to. Truth 2. Emptiness is not the absence of meaning, it is the absence of illusion. This is the truth most people misunderstand. They feel empty and assume something is wrong. That they lost motivation. That they broke themselves by thinking too much. That awareness somehow ruined life. But emptiness is not a failure state. It is a transitional one. What disappears is not life's richness. What disappears is the story you were using to explain it. Camus refused to escape this emptiness by inventing false hope. He stayed with it, not to glorify despair, but to remain honest. When illusions fall, the mind temporarily doesn't know how to orient itself. It no longer has goals that feel real, narratives that feel solid, identities that feel convincing. So it labels the gap as meaningless. But what is actually happening is subtraction, not loss. Life without illusion feels quiet, unadorned, unimpressive. And this is exactly why it feels unsettling. We were trained to equate meaning with stimulation, intensity, and narrative payoff. But life does not disappear when illusion does. Only noise does. What remains is presence without commentary, movement without drama, experience without justification. This is not the end of meaning, it is the end of borrowed meaning. And until the mind learns how to rest here, emptiness feels like a problem. Truth 3. The mind creates suffering by wanting life to be different than it is. This truth explains most modern anxiety. We suffer less from what happens, and more from resistance to what is already happening. Camus described the absurd not as chaos, but as the collision between our demand for certainty and life's refusal to provide it. We want clarity, life offers ambiguity. We want direction, life offers unfolding. We want guarantees, life offers movement. The friction between these creates tension. In 2026, this tension is amplified. We are trained to optimize, predict, plan, and control. But life does not respond to optimization, it responds to presence. The mind wants resolution before engagement. Life only offers engagement first. So the mind resists. And that resistance feels like anxiety, frustration, numbness, or exhaustion. But notice this carefully. The suffering does not come from uncertainty itself, it comes from the refusal to live inside it. When resistance drops, even briefly, something surprising happens. The nervous system settles, not because problems disappear, but because the inner fight ends. Life has always been uncertain. What changed is our tolerance for it. Camus did not try to solve uncertainty, he stopped demanding that it be solved. And in doing so, he discovered a strange freedom. Not freedom from life's conditions, but freedom within them. Truth 4. Clarity does not come from thinking more, it comes from seeing directly. Many people in this state believe they need one more insight, one more framework, one more explanation. But clarity does not accumulate, it stabilizes. There is a point where thinking becomes noise rather than illumination. The mind keeps asking, what does this mean? When the deeper question is, what is actually happening right now? Life is not lived conceptually, it is lived experientially. When attention returns to direct experience, something reorients naturally. Not through effort, but through contact. Camus was not interested in metaphysical answers. He was interested in how life feels when you stop lying to yourself. And what he found was not despair, but aliveness without guarantee. You do not need to solve existence to live it clearly. You need to stop standing between yourself and experience. This is where the sense of being lost begins to dissolve. Not because you found a map, but because you stopped trying to stand outside the territory. An example. Think about a morning like that. You wake up and there's this quiet thought in the background. What am I supposed to do now? What's the point? I don't really want to be here. And there's this subtle emptiness hovering there, without a clear cause, just present. Actually, nothing is technically wrong. Your life hasn't collapsed. But the moment you wake up, there's this distance. You're already thinking about your life instead of being in it. You're asking what it means, where it's going, why it feels empty, all before you've actually re-entered the day. And that's where the emptiness grows. Not because life is meaningless, but because you're standing outside of it, watching it like an object that needs to make sense before you touch it. In today's world, this happens constantly. We live in explanations. We analyze our feelings, our direction, our purpose, but we delay contact. We wait for clarity before movement, for motivation before action, for a reason before participation. And the problem is, clarity doesn't work that way. Life doesn't reveal itself to observers. It responds to engagement. When you stay in your head, trying to figure out what today should feel like, the sense of disconnection deepens. The mind keeps circling, and the body never quite arrives. What changes things isn't some big insight, it's re-entry. You let the day start without demanding it answer your questions first. You move, not because you feel driven, but because you're here. You don't try to solve the emptiness. You stop treating it like a problem and start treating it like a signal that you've stepped back too far. And as you step back into experience, slowly, quietly, the fog lifts just enough. Not into excitement. Not into certainty, but into presence. And from there, direction doesn't need to be forced. It starts to form on its own. Truth 5. Life becomes whole again when you stop asking it to explain itself. This is the quiet resolution most people miss. Life does not need to justify itself to be lived fully, and you do not need to understand everything to participate honestly. Wholeness is not a conclusion, it is a way of relating. When you stop demanding answers before engagement, something simple returns. Curiosity. Responsiveness. Care. Not as ideals, but as natural expressions of being alive. Camus called this revolt, not rebellion against life, but refusal to abandon it. To live fully without pretending, to act without false hope. To love without guarantees. To show up without explanation. This is not resignation, it is maturity. The emptiness dissolves not because meaning returns, but because the demand for meaning relaxes. Life does not become louder, it becomes closer. And in that closeness, something quietly stabilizes. Not excitement, not certainty, but enoughness. If you are in a season where life feels strangely empty, unclear, or directionless, it does not mean something is wrong with you. It may mean something false has fallen away. And what comes next is not another story to believe in, but a way of living without needing one. Camus did not offer hope, he offered honesty. And honesty, when lived fully, turns out to be surprisingly life-giving. You are not here to solve life, you are here to live it as it is, without illusion, and without retreat. And that is not emptiness. That is clarity. This has been What We Are, a space for exploration of consciousness, the truth of life, presence, and the simple miracle of being. This is not about learning something new, but remembering what you already are. And if this video resonated with you in any way, if it helped you see something a little more clearly, or simply helped you slow down for a moment, you can support this work by giving it a like, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone you feel might need it right now. Those small actions truly matter. They help this video reach the people it's meant for, and they allow us to keep creating and sharing work like this, quietly, consistently, and with care. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening.